wilderness. The fellow who invited us was a neighbor of ours that we had met once or twice. His name was Aldo. Pot would in fact be the key word to Aldo's potluck invitation. Much to their consternation, my parents were very quickly figuring out that besides apples and oysters, there were a few other crops that could be successfully harvested in Desolation Sound. With its rare coastal microclimate of warm, wet air and long, hot summers, Desolation Sound, British Columbia is perfect for growing bountiful bushels of marijuana. Aldo's potluck was a 5-minute boat ride away from our cabin in the next bay, and as our motorboat rounded the rocky finger that separated our bays, our family heard the potluck before we saw it. The combined caterwaul of a party in full swing danced across the open water like radio waves, and as we drew closer, my innocent young eyes stared through my Coke bottle glasses, widening upon a scene of total hedonism. Intertwined brown bodies lay outstretched all over the sun-drenched shoreline, smoking, drinking, laughing, singing, making out, and making love. Seemingly wild, long-haired children ran amongst the cavorting adults, leaping off the rocks fearlessly into the green ocean water. And the aesthetic that united this potluck was very revealing. Every single man, woman, and child was totally and utterly nude. It was like the moment Charlton Heston peeked over that ridge and discovered the humans at the Oasis in Planet of the Apes. Just add a cranked-up Deep Purple cassette and matching purple bong smoke that hung low across the bay. Smoke on the water just like their stereo was blasting. And this outrageous scene was more than enough for my dad to start vigorously turning our boat around. But my mom wouldn't let him. She grabbed his arm as he was trying to turn the wheel, and she said, no, we can't. And she wouldn't let him, reasoning that A, she was bringing banana bread, B, we were gonna have to meet the rest of our Desolation Sound neighbors eventually, and C, how would it look if this new conservative family from Vancouver would suddenly swing their boat around in full view of this entire neighborhood party and leave without even saying hello. So we tied our skiff to a makeshift barge of boats, a barely floating pell-mell parking lot of rafts and canoes and kayaks and rowboats, and we had to climb through several of them before we could make our way up the gangplank to shore. And we were greeted by Aldo, a beaming Aldo, and his festive long white beard, which flowed down over his bulging brown belly, both of which almost covered his dangling penis. Almost. He gripped a half-full bottle of labelless red wine in one hand and waved a giant doobie around in the other, which he transferred to his lips when he extended his leathery brown hand in welcome. And my sister and I stared on in complete shock. Everyone at this potluck warmly welcomed our family with extremely uncomfortable hugs, kind of like introducing us all around. Pungent pot clouds filled the air like a skunky London fog. That one's for you, London. Elaborate bongs gurgled and hissed, threatening to stain my mom's pink pedal pushers at any moment. And Mom later said that she had never maintained such steadfast eye contact in her life, and she took extra caution when reaching out to shake hands with the tall guys. And when Aldo, our host, sat down on a stump and spread his legs like Santa in a sauna, my mom very strategically placed the pan of banana bread directly on his lap. So, We spent, my family did, about another 90 excruciating minutes at this potluck. But since the only pot that my parents ever touched in their lives sat on our stove simmering craft dinner every Friday night, they weren't really blending in any better than my sister and I were. And after the umpteenth uncircumcised male member bounced past my sister's eye level, she kind of slipped into something like a sort of a catatonic, sort of swaying shock, desperate to escape back into her 1880s world of heavily clothed, bonnet-to-boot characters of her beloved Little House on the Prairie novels. And I pushed my glasses up my nose that were pretty much fogging by this point, just trying to take an extra peek at the bronze pregnant hippie ladies spread out on the rocks like melted candles. Mom eventually signaled our exit. "Aldo, thank you so much for having us," she said in a volume shrill enough to frighten birds into flight. "You know what, we better get the kids home now, but this has been a fabulous party." On our mostly silent boat ride home, Dad muttered that the party had been an unpleasant cross between Helter Skelter, Apocalypse Now, and a National Geographic special on orangutans. And I have had a deep and personal aversion to potlucks ever since.